So what we're going to look at today is something that I've added to the landing page. Now, please keep in mind the landing page is at the bottom of every classroom's Google Classroom stream. So at the very bottom, you can get to our landing page this way. And what I've added here is I have added a little palette with a paintbrush. And if you click on it, there's a link, and it's going to take you to that famous artist slide. Now, I had a student email me asking what we were going to do with the famous artist slides already, because I did put them on the classroom stream at one point, just in case you were bored to check them out. And now that we are at this stage, I am going to go over what we're going to do with those. So again, you can access this again through the landing page. Just click the palette and it will take you to there. And it also was added to the stream at one point this year already. But again, the landing page is a very easy way to get to things such as this, as well as our YouTube channel. We have some textbooks here. So again, also, if something does not work for a link for the YouTube channel, you can still access that here. So keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and see what we're going to do with the famous artist slides. Now, what I want to do is I want you to create a 1 to 3 slide, well, more than one, 2 to 3 slides for an artist that you choose off of this page. Again, there's a whole bunch here, and every one of them that you click on is going to open a different artist information, and then you're going to go further and look that up online as well. So for my demo here, what I've done is I have a artist slide, and I'm going to just cover some of the things I want you to use. So the very first thing is I do want all slides to contain the following. Again, you can add more, but I don't want any less than this. So let's go and see if it'll let me present. My computer has crashed on me twice, so I'm really hoping here. All right. So number one, we want a title such as the artist's name. We want his or her date of birth and death. If they're dead, if they're still alive, put present. I also did not put this on here, but you should put where they were born, or where they lived most of their life, things like that. We should have a photo of the artist included. Try to find one that you think is the best representation, or if it was an artist who historically, was all through time aging as they did their art, maybe find a couple different pictures of them. Any art movements they were associated with, that is terms like, Dadaism, pop art, Impressionism. There's a whole bunch. So again, the movement of area that they were in, or founded, or things like that. A short biography of the artist that includes information that you're going to put into your own words. I don't want any cut and paste. Again, you're going to read it and you're going to reformulate it into your own words. And find 2 to 3 good examples of the artist's works that you think represent that artist the best after you've read a little bit about them. Something that kind of defines who they were. Each artwork must be accompanied by the title of the artwork and the year it was made, as well as any information pertaining to the artwork itself. Again, we're not just putting a picture on a slide and saying this is when it was made. I want to know why it was made, or the reasoning behind you picking it. And some of the things you might want to consider if you can't find really good details about it, but you picked a painting by that artist. First of all, make sure it is by that artist, and then maybe think about what is exciting about this artwork. Like, what made you choose it? You could talk about the reasoning for the artist, that, why did they create this artwork? And then you could also do, what emotions do you feel when you look at this artwork? And I want sources for everything. So this is an example slide. I love Jasper Johns. I think his work is really cool. So my example slide here has Jasper Johns on my left, and it's 1930 to present day. He was born in Augusta, Georgia, but I actually knew Jasper Johns as a South Carolina artist, which I learned there's actually a little bit of a feud about that, about where he was born versus where he lived. And there's a museum in Greenville, South Carolina that has a lot of his artwork that I've seen. So, in Columbia, he went to school in Columbia, South Carolina, actually. So, information about him that is not necessarily something that's just, a paragraph. I like bullet points. It's a presentation. So again, things such as movements. He's an abstract expressionist and was, a part of the pop art movement. There were other areas too, but those are the ones I felt were the strongest ones in my opinion. Again, his mediums. A medium simply means what they used to do the art with. So he was a painter, a printmaker, and a sculptor. Interesting fact I thought about him was he actually served in the Army for 2 years during the Korean War. He was stationed in South Carolina and in Japan, and I thought that being stationed in Japan would be interesting for printmaking. I would be interested in how that affected him. Johns was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011, and he uses a term which I'm not sure if I'm going to mispronounce here, but quotidian imagery, it means that it's imagery derived from things that we commonly know of. And that would be basic shapes or symbols that we don't even need to think about, that we already know as soon as we see them. So that would be like simple letters. And he did a lot of stencil art with letters and numbers and basic symbols like targets, American flags, things like that. And we'll see some of those maps, a lot of maps. So again, all my information where it says source was the Metropolitan Museum of Art can be found through that link. And again, I got all that information from here. Okay, so this is the Met's website. And again, it's just information. I just read it, and I picked out the parts that I thought were the most interesting in my opinion for him. And again, there's also things like flag 1954, and you could click on that and go further, which is what I did. Now, when I looked up flag, which is the next slide here, I will show you. So I feel like this was one of his major pieces, and it was created in 1954-55 when it was completed. And I feel like it really represented his use of iconic, recognized symbols for the flag. At the time, it was a 48 flag, but it's actually done using collage, paint, and what's called encaustic, which is a mixture of pigment and wax, so that as the wax dries, it creates really thick, like brush strokes. You can see drips in it, and it gives it a lot of texture. So I felt like this was a major work of his, especially him serving in the military. And his name, if you actually look up the name Jasper, he's named after, I can't remember what war it was in, but there's a famous guy that raises the flag, and it's who he's named after. I'd have to look that up. I totally forget right now. So that was something that I thought was interesting. And to get that information, I actually got it from the Museum of Modern Art, which is MoMA here, and it was this link right here. So again, it's an entire page devoted to a little blurb on the flag. And I got to that simply by following the last link. And if I had done a image search for Jasper Johns, I would still get a lot of artwork that I could click on and follow that and read about the actual art itself, not just the artist. Okay. And I do want more than one piece. I want you to pick two things. So not only did I think the flag is a very easy symbol to recognize, but I also picked alphabet. And alphabet is a neat work. You may have seen this before. I like it. The reason I like Jasper Johns is basically because I like how there's a contrast between the organization. So for in this case, we have the letters are in a grid method. However, the paint is applied in an extremely messy method. So it gives it a sense of like texture and looseness, and it just looks really, I don't know, I just like the grit of it. But at the same time, I feel like it's a really structured work due to the way the letters are laid out. And again, there's information here such as, he used a lot of stencils because they were supposed to be these recognized letters. This is the only one that actually used A to Z. And again, for this piece, I actually went to the Art Institute of Chicago, and there's where I got it. And again, just a little blurb about the information, and it tells you the date, and it actually, it tells you everything. It's on paper or paper on hardboard, but it tells you the dimensions and things. And sometimes it's interesting because you'll see the size of something. So that's only a 12 by 10, so it's pretty small. And you don't think about the size, but that's a really important thing. So imagine if we were in an art gallery or a museum looking at art versus on the computer. The computer really descales everything. We lose our texture, and everything's, emanating light because the screen is using light. So you got to keep that in mind when you look at these works. The work, if we saw it and we thought, oh, wow, that's cool, and then we learned, hey, this was actually a 30-foot painting, it would really make things different in our mind as opposed to if it was a 3-inch painting or a 3-foot painting. And again, dimensions matter there for these things. So again, all you're going to do is you're going to create your artist slides. So in the end, let's just review. For our artist slide, we had one artist slide, which again is our artists themselves, has things like their birth date, if they are deceased, it has when they died, where they lived, any information that you think is pertinent to that artist and really who they were in developing their art skill and style. Then the next two slides are going to be artworks that you looked up by that artist that really spoke to you. You're like, wow, I want to look up more about this. And again, keep in mind that sometimes you might see a thumbnail of something that's small on a Google image result, but by going further, you might say, okay, that's neat. But then if you go to a link that has more of that person's art, maybe you're going to find something that you like even more. And that's kind of an important thing. Again, we don't want to just do a Google search and pick the first two things that come up. We want to find something that is by that artist that we think is really cool. Again, my goal is that every week you're going to complete one of these artist slides. So basically, every week you're going to do 3 slides. And you can do more than 3 slides, but I want you to have at least 3 slides. Again, you're going to compile this weekly, and then later in the year, you're going to pick between 1 to 3 of your favorite artists and the best slides that you have, and we're going to compile those and present them. Okay? And later this year, you might even be able to select your own artists, but at this point, you're not going to be able to. So I want to just answer that question right now. Again, you need to pick artists that are based off of the artist slide that I made on the landing page. If you have any questions, just ask. But remember, I do want sources. And while Wikipedia is a great source of information, it is more of a starting point. So again, if you were to look at the Wikipedia page for Jasper Johns, it's not that there's incorrect information, but it's that the sources aren't always accurate. So what you can do is you can always look at where the sources came from that make a Wikipedia article and follow those sources to actually find where the information came from and make sure it checks out before you use that as a source.